Hi, Aries. Welcome to your April 2019 Astro Update. I'm Raina. And April, obviously, as we enter the month, this is your birthday month, starting from late March. And so when I think of April, I do think of Aries. Maybe because they both start with A, but the sun is in Aries for most of the time. And so this is your first house. So when the sun is in the first house, the person may feel very energetic. And also, I think it's like feeling this validation from the universe that you are who you are. And Aries people love their sense of self, okay? The first house in astrology is the house of the self. So when the sun is there, and the sun represents our, what I would call our healthy ego, our identity in this world, it can't help but make you feel great, you know? So the sun is in that first house as the month begins. And then we are going to be having 3 planets retrograde in the month of April. So this year has been, it started out with a couple of months where we had these green lights. Now, I don't know about any of you. I was really looking forward to that. But what I found was that other things kind of made me not want to launch any projects, even though it was supposed to be very favorable for it. So this is an example of why predictions are tricky, or talking about the astrological transits is only one part of the story, because you may be having personal issues going on, and that takes up most of your time. And so you could have the best transits in the world, but you're not going to feel like you can devote your attention to like starting your own business or starting a book that you want to write. So that's one of the reasons why I want you to be very present in your life so you can see what's going on and how it's impacting you. And if you have relationships that are draining you, be aware of that, because that could be keeping you from doing productive things because you're chasing this drama that will probably end at some point anyway, because you won't be able to tolerate it. So in any case, Jupiter goes retrograde in Sagittarius on the 10th of the month. So this is affecting your 9th house, the house that it rules. So is it more potent in this house, this retrograde? Who knows? But the Jupiter retrograde could affect you in terms of slowing things down. Although Jupiter is a planet that even when it's retrograding, it's a positive force. And what may happen is that things may be more internalized at this point, as retrogrades tend to make them. So not so much progress in the outer world, but in the inner world. And one of the things with Jupiter is about God. Okay. So, and also about travel. So let's not talk about outer travel, but inner travel. And we could even talk about meditation in that sense, even though the 9th house, I would not characterize as a house specifically about meditation. I would peg the 12th house more for that. But in terms of study, studying spiritual topics, definitely might be on the agenda. If you are somebody who is trying to get a college degree, and there is some kind of snafu, or I don't know if it would be a snafu. It could actually be that you were trying to get into college and it was not in the cards for you, pardon the pun, several months ago. And now the opportunity comes back to you, because sometimes Jupiter retrograde can bring you an opportunity that you missed the first time around. Okay, so it could be like even a trip that you're going to take. But if it doesn't work out that way, if you find that you're trying to go and travel or take some kind of college course and something doesn't gel, just realize that it may have something to do with Jupiter retrograding in your ninth house. Jupiter will be retrograding until August. And I think it turns direct around August 11th or so. So we're talking about several months here, but not, forever. So just keep that in mind. Now, you have your new moon, and this one is at 15 degrees of Aries on, I didn't write when it is, but I know that it's on the 5th of the month. So that's why I should have written that down, because I just told you about the Jupiter retrograde, which is on the 10th. So I'm kind of mixing the chronology here. So on April 5th, new moon in your sign at 15 degrees of Aries, in that first house of the self. Again, what is it that you want to accomplish in the next 12 months? Write them down, have a vision. I think a lot of Aries people do have visions for their life. The only thing that I would say, Aries, is be more contemplative about it. You're very enthusiastic, and that can make you want to just go out and do something in a very rash kind of a way, or have this dream that really doesn't work for you ultimately, and that you just get a sudden desire to do. So when you're thinking about the next year ahead of you, think about, what are the things that I want to accomplish that are going to be easily done within a year's time, that I'm not being too, I don't want to say too bold. I think that being bold can be really a wonderful thing, but being unrealistic about, okay? On the 17th, Mercury goes into your sign. So Mercury has been in the 12th house for half of the month. And in the 12th house, Mercury, I think, can be great for meditation and for artists, but not so much for communicating on behalf of yourself. Mercury in the 12th house can make you very mystical, but not very practical. And even your thoughts, your ideas can be kind of muddled, because the 12th house is like enveloped in the fog of Neptune. So in the first house, it's very good. Now you have a spokesperson within yourself, because Mercury is in your sign, and you're able to communicate who you are, what you're about, in a very direct and confident way. On the 20th, the sun goes into Taurus. And I think, this is very common, a common date for the sun to go into Taurus. It probably differs slightly from year to year, but on that very same day, Venus goes into your sign. So that's very nice. Now, so the sun is going into the second house now, and then the energy gets more practical, because we're talking about Taurus. But Taurus is the first earth sign. So, and it's ruled by Venus. So there's one thing that Taurus and Aries have in common, and it's sensuality. And especially for Taurus, it's all of the senses. And one of the things that is great about it is that when Venus goes into this second house, which is not happening this month, but when it does next month, it's going to be in the house that it rules, and that'll be great for money. But even now that the sun is there, that can indicate that you're putting more attention on your finances. You could even be having creativity. Maybe you're coming up with some great plans for implementation at some point of income streams. And Venus going into your sign, coming from that 12th house. I don't know if any of you had met somebody, and maybe it was even kind of a soulmate type of relationship. But it could be something for whatever reason that you were keeping under wraps, this relationship. And maybe now you're ready to take it public. Venus in your sign can just give you that special glow. You glow, girl, or you glow, guy. But that didn't have quite the ring to it. But it's like something. It doesn't have to be like what you actually look like. It's kind of like an aura. And, Venus is the attractor. So that idea of attraction, we talk about the law of attraction. When, you can either attract or you can repel. And of course you would prefer to attract, at least if it's a good thing. Sometimes repelling things is good too. But when you're trying to have good come to you, in other words. And so this can be a time where good naturally comes to you in whatever form that entails, And so this could be that period where this is happening with great ease, starting on the 20th. And it's, on the same day that the sun goes into your second house. So that could also be a money connection. On the 24th, Pluto goes retrograde in the 10th house of career. Now, here's why this is important. And I'll just say this. Saturn goes retrograde on the 29th. So within 5 days, you have these two heavies in astrology going retrograde. This could definitely have an impact on career matters. So in one case with Pluto, be very, very careful. As you have Pluto in that 10th house, be very careful about wanting to get ahead at any cost. Aries, I don't think, is particularly susceptible to this, but sometimes you may be too hasty to really check somebody out if they seem to be offering you the world on a silver platter. Check it out. Don't tempt fate, because Pluto and Saturn are both karmic planets, and fate, I would say, don't tempt karma, because you're just attracted to this idea of some great success. These could be tests that are given to you. On a more mundane level, there can be something surrounding maybe even like power issues, or like you want a certain position and you thought it was in the bag and you have to get more training for it. Or you have, Saturn can be, you have to be qualified for whatever it is. There are no shortcuts. You have to work for it. Okay. But Pluto retrograde, it could be like somebody coming to you in a dark alley and saying, hey, you wanted that. I can get that for you. All you have to do is this. So whatever goes on at work, understand that there may be a higher situation unfolding here, and just accept whatever it is. That doesn't mean being complacent, but not trying to usurp your karmic destiny either. So you could be facing a little bit of a trial for the next few months, career-wise. And, I think it's pretty commonplace for anyone, whether you work for yourself or you work for somebody else, to have periods of time where they're slowed down, where you may feel like you're going backwards and it freaks you out. And you just have to kind of stay the course. But when I say stay the course, you may have to alter your behavior. Maybe you're doing something that isn't quite in alignment. So don't, this is having two planets retrograding in that 10th house, you may have to really think about what you're doing and how you're doing it. I'm not saying not to do that. And certainly you may try something else and see if that works better. But I'm talking about on an energetic level. Don't get caught up in any kind of drama. that is career related, and trying to save face, which is a 10th house, is your, what do you call it? Your reputation. Don't try don't get your ego involved so that you're trying to look good, even if it looks like you're slipping a little bit in some way and you're like desperate to keep at that same level. That could be a trap, and that could set you back even further. So being true to yourself and living in integrity are very important at this time. And also being flexible, being willing to cooperate. Maybe there's some issue where you were trying to have it all your way, and now you have to kind of eat a little bit of crow and work well with others, play well with others. Do it. Do whatever it takes to make it as easy as possible, because Pluto ain't playing. Pluto will, especially when it's retrograding, it's the shadow part of itself. And, it is a very powerful force in your 10th house. So it's not bad to have Pluto in the 10th house. You can really, and definitely not Saturn. Saturn rules that house. People think Saturn is this heavy. And while it can be very strict, it can give you so much benefit and structure in your life and with your career house, in the house that it rules. It functions very well. Pluto in this house can give you great power, but at what price? So you have to make sure that you're walking on the right side of things, living in integrity, and you will be fine. And, oh, wait, there should be a full moon somewhere around here. It's funny that I didn't write that down. I'm going to tell you about that, even though it's a little bit jumbled, this timeline. And I apologize for that. You're the first sign that I'm doing, so I'm tweaking it out here. On the 19th, we are having a full moon at 29 degrees of Libra. So there's that opposite sign again. The first one in March, now this one in April, the 29th. These are both going to be, as all full moons are, oppositions to your sun at 29, Aries. So this falls in that relationship sector. The 29th degree, the first one being at 0 degrees, this could bring some kind of relationship matter to its fullest extent. And if you are having relationship issues, you may decide to leave a relationship. But I believe it will be on your terms. It won't be something that is just coming out of the blue. There's nothing wrong with that. That might be the beginning of a better life. So you probably tried your best to make something work. For other people, it could be the realization of how much somebody means to you, and it could actually strengthen a relationship. And so it depends on the individual. One thing that you have to understand, Aries, is that these transits are never only about one thing. So while some people may experience relationship endings, others may experience relationships being taken to the next level. And, because the 7th house is the house of committed partnership, you might say, well, how much deeper can you take it from there? Well, you can. It's called the 8th house. The 8th house is the house of intimacy, and it's a water house, so there's the emotions involved. The 7th house sometimes is kind of like, it's the ring, it's the 7th house is the house of legal affairs, so it's the marriage contract. But it doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be about love. You can get married without love. I mean, come on. So the 8th house is where stuff gets real. Okay? And so even with people that have seen, Aries people who have seen their relationship be really challenged, that can be a good thing. Like even with the first full moon at 0 degrees of Libra on March 20th, at the time of the sun going into Aries, that is a time that maybe for some of you, you find out that a relationship that the other person has been up to something that you were unaware of, because the full moon is falling in their house. So it's like the light is shining on their behavior. And whatever that thing is, I mean, obviously I'm kind of hinting at cheating, but it could be simply that the person is unhappy in the relationship and you were just kind of going along totally unaware of it. But even in those instances, if you're honest, you may realize that, hey, I guess we weren't really getting along. I guess there was a problem and I was kind of oblivious for whatever reason. Maybe I didn't want to deal with this because I felt quite threatened by it. I didn't know what to do, what have you. So I just wanted to kind of remind you about that, because sometimes people are a little bit, how can I put it, in the dark, and they refuse to see things as they truly are. And that can be a blessing, because that's how you get to that 8th house. That is the real deal, is about underneath the surface. What are the two of us feeling? So anyway, that's what I have for you, Aries. And if you would like, since it's your birthday month, if you would like to look at what are the things that are going on. Now, I've been talking about dates here, and I don't like to say this too early in the reading, because it probably would annoy somebody to hear this. But this is general, because your exact time of birth is everything. Your year of birth, your date of birth, all of that will lead to your personal natal chart, okay? So all of the transits here, if you're watching this or listening and your sun is in Aries, oh my gosh, your rising sign is going to determine what your natal chart is about, is going to construct that from that time of birth. And it could be anything. And the things that I'm talking about might be totally different. So I do have natal chart interpretations. The whole enchilada, which also includes your personality traits as well as just the transits for the coming year. So check me out online. I'm at ReinaMoonAstrology.com, and I have the link below. Happy birthday. Have a great month. Bye.